Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming today. We are going to give people a minute to enter the room as we just opened it. Welcome, welcome. We're going to give people a minute to come on in. Hello, everyone. Okay, everyone, we are giving folks, hey, hello. Yes, feel free to chime in with where you are from. Thank you. We are going to give people just a minute to chime in. Wonderful. Very, very exciting. Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, chime in about from where you're from. Exciting to see so many folks here. I will just go ahead and get started because we have so much to get through today. Lots of amazing content. Want to make sure you have a lot of time for that as well as for folks' questions. So please, as folks are coming in, feel free to drop in the chat where you're from and all of that. But I will just go ahead and I'll just go ahead and just start with a housekeeping note that if you have any questions during the call, feel free to drop them into the chat. We will do our best to answer them as we go, and we'll also leave some time for Q&A at the end. But yes, welcome. Drop your name, drop where you're from in the chat. And as we go, if we have any questions, let's go ahead and drop them in. Okay, so welcome to Sister District's Down Ballot Strategy Briefing. I want to start really with a little bit of a bigger picture, just acknowledging the excitement when we all felt when we realized that Kamala Harris was officially at the top of the ticket. It's been an incredible, joyful, thrilling moment. Hopefully you're still feeling really good about the debate and the energy coming out of that as well. But here's the hard truth. Is that it is post-Labor Day. There are something like, I think this is right, 53 days left until the election, and the honeymoon is over, okay? The reality is that this race is still extremely close, and it is going to come down to razor-thin margins in battleground states. And when we look at the state legislative level, the races are going to get even tighter. And so that's exactly where Sister District comes in. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lala Wu. I am a co-founder and the executive director of Sister District. And our mission is to build power in state legislatures. Since 2017, we've helped to flip 10 chambers and elect over 90 that's not right. My notes are wrong here. And elect over 100 state legislators while also running cutting edge programs, engaging voters, volunteers. And a big part of what we've done always is that our research is data-driven, research-backed. And this year, we've done some amazing research that we are excited to share with you today. So today, our briefing is going to focus on one of our core issue focus areas for this year, which is combating down ballot roll-off. So we are so excited that we've got over 300 people who signed up for the call, and so many of them on with us today, practitioners, strategists, funders, volunteers. We never could have dreamed that so many people would be interested in this very, very nerdy, somewhat esoteric, but wildly impactful issue of down ballot roll-off, where voters tick the boxes at the top of the ballot, but stop voting before they get to the bottom. So on the agenda today, we are going to be sharing the results of our latest research. We will explore what drives roll-off that we found by asking voters. And then we will be introducing our Downballot Toolkit, providing practical messaging and digital resources to help encourage voters to stay engaged throughout the entire ballot. And then finally, we will discuss strategies that you can use in your own work to boost down ballot voting, whether you're a practitioner, a volunteer, a donor, anything in between. So we are really, really thrilled to have you here, and I look forward to diving in. So again, drop any questions in the chat and let's get started.
Everybody, Shawn, Werner, organizing and political director here at Sister District. And as Lala said, we are 53 days away from the election, which means that we are in full communications. We are completely running all of our programming across the 11 states to making sure that we're able to introduce and define our candidates while also drawing a sharp contrast to our Republican opponents. It's been absolutely remarkable to see the energy that we've been able to harness in these key races with all of our sister district candidates outraising their Republican opponents in Q2, which obviously those early dollars allowed us to be as effective as possible in our planning of paid communications. Over the next couple of weeks, we will be working to close our budgets and making sure that we are working through our persuasion universes so that we can make sure that we're turning those folks out. As Lala said, and as a lot of folks know, these races are extremely tight. For example, Pennsylvania winning their legislative majorities by 63 votes in one seat allowed us to have gavels in the hands of Democrats, and there's no one better than Speaker Joanna McClinton. These races will all be decided within field margins. So I also do want to plug the Sister District National Phone Bank. I know that there are some partners and allies on this call. If you have volunteers that would like to make a direct impact in helping identify our supporters and then turning them out, reminding them to vote the whole ways down the ballot will be absolutely critical. And what's at stake is the progressive policy that we know that we can implement. We see that in our amazingly blue trifectas, whether that is the new one in Michigan from 2022, the beautiful work that has happened in Minnesota, and we hope to create more of those trifectas this fall. But it's absolutely critical. We know that in fundraising, it's great to ask people that have already given, if someone is going to the ballot, making sure that they are just finishing that ballot is prime targets. And so really looking forward to sharing some of this awesome research with folks. And with that, I'll kick it over to our next speaker.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your morning, your afternoon with us thinking about ballot roll-off and what we can do to curb it this year. I'm Gabby Goldstein. I'm one of our co-founders here at Sister District. And thank you so much to Lala, to Shawn for teeing this all up. We're all on this line on the call today, almost 150 folks, because we know that state legislatures are extremely important. They are overlooked venues of power for us. We always say progressives are tardy to the party when it comes to paying attention to state legislatures. And as you heard from Shawn, these races are going to be razor thin this year. So we wanted to just give you a little bit of background here about what motivated this work that we've been doing all year and frankly the past few years to look at ballot roll-off. And so what is ballot roll-off? It is when someone ticks the top of their ballot box, but not the bottom for state legislature in particular. And for the past few years, our research team has been looking into this, and we've come to understand that a significant impediment to building progressive state power is down ballot roll-off. So when we started doing this work, we noticed a few things, and everyone on this line will remember many, if not all of these instances. First off, 2017, our first year out of the gate as an organization. What happened? The majority in and power in the Virginia House of Delegates came down to a tie-breaking one vote in one district, right? Shelley Simons, we all remember her. But we started seeing that all across the board, razor thin margins, not just at the district level, but at the entire chamber level. And we also started to notice that a lot of the time on our side, there's a big gap between the top of the ticket and the bottom of the ticket when it comes to vote totals, at least on our side. And so we started to wonder what's going on here, what's happening, what is driving ballot roll-off, how significant a problem is it, and what can we do about it? So we undertook a bunch of different types of research, qualitative, quantitative, secondary data analysis to understand a few things. First, how common is roll-off? Turns out it's very, very, very common, particularly on the Democratic side. We looked over 10 years in 8 battleground states and found that Democrats running for state ledge experienced ballot roll-off 80% of the time versus just 40% of the time on the Republican side. So this is certainly a problem on both sides of the aisle, but much more frequent and severe for Democrats. We also learned that roll-off affects state legislative outcomes, both at the district and chamber level. And we've already given a few examples there. And what we also found was that if we could just decrease roll-off a little bit, we could experience massive gains at the state legislative level. So we went back and we looked at the 2020 numbers, and we found that if we could have decreased roll-off by less than 2% in the battleground states, we could have picked up 14 additional state legislative chambers in 9 different states. So what we knew going into the current research was roll-off is a very significant problem for Democrats, more so for Democrats than Republicans. It absolutely affects state legislative outcomes, and just a little bit of decrease could have really massive gains. So we knew that, and then the question was, okay, but who's rolling off their ballot and why? Why are they rolling off their ballot? So we undertook some qual and quant research earlier this year, and what we learned was that there are very clear demographics who are most likely to roll off their ballots. These are women, voters of color, and young voters. These are the folks who are most likely to go out and do the hardest thing, which is getting to the ballot box at all, right? That is the biggest hurdle. But folks in these demographics are most likely to go over that hurdle and then stop and not vote down ballot. So then the question is, why? So that's sort of the who. Then the question is, why? Why aren't folks voting down ballot? And we learned a few things on this why piece. First, and I'm just sharing 2 of the big themes that then drove the rest of this research for us. The first is around voter knowledge. What we learned is that voters who roll off their ballots, they don't know much about what state legislators do. Okay, you know, that's pretty common. But they really don't know that the issues that they care the most about, including abortion, are actually decided by their state legislatures, not by the federal government. So we had a number of questions to get at this, to understand what the level of knowledge is, not just in general about state legislatures, but really specifically about the issues that we know our voters care so much about. And what we learned is that there's a knowledge gap there. They just don't know that their state legislatures decide these issues. And remember, we did this research a couple years after Dobbs, right? So many of us on this call think that now it's just sort of, you know, everyone knows after Dobbs, it's states. Turns out there's still really big education gaps for our voters around that fact. The second theme that came through in the research we did was around confidence. Our voters don't feel confident about voting down ballot, and they don't think that their vote will matter down ballot, which of course is wild because, as we know, every vote really counts at this level of the ballot. So that's what we knew from the second phase of this research. We then took those findings and rolled them into message development and testing to create and then test messages that would empower and excite our voters to actually tick all the boxes all the way down. And so we're going to hear from Jillian in a moment about what came out of those message development and testing phases, and which is what we're really excited to present to you today. So with that, I'll pass things over to Jillian.
Okay, thank you, Gabby. Hello, everyone. In just a moment, I'm going to pull up my screen and give all of us a little tour of our new Downballot Toolkit webpage. And this page is the finished product of all the great research that Gabby just described. And we are so excited to be able to share this resource with you all as what we think of as the solution to the challenge of down ballot roll-off. So one moment and I will, here we go. Okay. So before we dive in, I want to mention, for this phase of the project, we have been working very closely with a creative firm called AB Partners to design the look and the feel of this page, as well as the ads, which I'm going to show you shortly. I know a few members of their team are on this call, and I just wanted to shout out the great work that they've done to bring these digital assets to life for us. So let's jump in. So starting here, this section, the research overview, is grounded in that first phase of research that we mentioned, including the focus groups and the survey that we did with Data for Progress. And from this, we're able to share information that we learned about the roots of the behavior. So who roll-off voters are demographically, and what are some of the main attitudes like confidence and agency that this group of voters commonly holds. We also provide here links for a deeper dive into all of that research for anyone who's interested in learning more. And this next section related is this talks about key barriers for voters. So this research helped us identify the biggest barriers for voters that we just all want to stay mindful of as we're trying to develop interventions to reduce roll-off. So we talk about confidence, we talk about their information needs, and as well as some differences in their media consumption habits. And from there, we move to from barriers to insights. So these are insights that we learned from our own message testing, as well as general principles from prior messaging research that other groups have done. And all of these insights, really helped to guide us as we started, got started in the message development process. And here we show our two messages that performed best in testing and the core elements of each approach that we think makes them effective. So this first message is centered on reproductive freedom, and it really underlines the authority that state legislators have over this crucial issue of abortion. So it ties back to that finding that we mentioned, that many voters are simply unaware of what state legislators do or what policies they have power over. And so we wanted to highlight here that reproductive freedom is one of those important issues that state legislators have authority over. And the second here, our votes can make the difference, really drives home the idea that races at this level of the ballot can be extremely close. And so a handful of votes, less than 100 votes, can flip seats and even entire chambers. And so, conveying this urgency that, in these races, especially state legislative races, your vote absolutely matters and can make a difference. So those are the messages here in this section. These are our sample static ads. We have several variations for each of those two themes, each of those two messaging themes. And it just, really has the essential, pieces of each message distilled into this graphic form. And the images on the page here are obviously watermarked, but we make the high-res images available for download, and I'll get to that in a moment. And here is the part that we have been waiting a long time for, but I'm very excited to preview for the first time our video ad titled Determination, and it motivates and empowers voters to vote all the way down the ballot. And so I am going to play this for you.
Our votes will make the difference in state elections this year. These elections are often won by razor-thin margins. In 2022, just 63 votes flipped the entire Pennsylvania House of Representatives blue. And this year, key issues like abortion are on the ballot. Our legislators hold the power to protect or take away our reproductive freedom. Right now, Democrats are leading in state legislative races, but some polls show a dead heat. Every vote can tip the balance of power. Let's come together and vote for Democrats all the way down the ballot.
Okay, so lastly, how do people access these materials? There is, here on the toolkit website, there's just a short form that we ask people to fill out. And upon submission, you'll be directed to a folder where the static ads that I showed and also the actual video are stored in this folder. They are free and available to download after you fill out the form. So that is it for the toolkit itself. Happy to take questions at the end, and for now I will pass the mic back to Gabby.
Fantastic. So just to recap, 2 frames that we found in message testing work really well to move our voters, not just all voters, but our voters, to feel more confident and excited to vote down ballot. 1, tying the issues we know they care about, like abortion, to state legislators specifically. Connecting those dots for our voters, we see movement for them to feel more confident and excited to vote for state legislatures. So that's the first one. The second is the razor-thin margins, every vote counts kind of framework. It's not enough to just tell people that their vote counts, their vote matters. We know that that doesn't work. You can't just tell people that. But what we see does work is giving them a concrete example of a tiny margin that feels bite-sized, that feels relatable, and that they can say in their mind, wow, 63 votes, wow, 1 vote. Really, we see a lot of movement in the testing to help our voters feel confident and excited to vote down ballot. So the 2 frames that we just shared are, we've created static assets and video assets. This is all available for free, white labeled. It is available on the website. I see the question there, how do we get access? Just go to sisterdistrict.com/rolloff and give us your info, and you'll have access to the assets. And the ask here is to share this. We think that this is great material for turnout program. So this isn't a persuasion universe, right? These are folks who are likely to get out and vote for president. What we're trying to do, it's a kind of different type of persuasion. We're trying to persuade them to vote all the way down the ballot, but it's not traditional persuasion. We think this is great for turnout universe program. So just use it. And if you don't use the exact assets that we've created, use the messaging guidance and the ideas behind these messages, why they work, you can put into your own program. For instance, if you're running program for state legislative candidates in North Carolina, find that race, maybe it's Diamond's race, whatever it was that tipped the chamber, or the, really close race, gives people the example they need, or in your own district, right? These races are all, decided on handfuls of votes, or so often decided by handfuls of votes. So those are the principles behind why these messages work. And we've created these assets for you to use and share widely. So that's the ask here, is to use these and to share them with anyone in the progressive ecosystem who you think might be running program this year and where it might be useful. If you have questions, additional questions, please reach out to Jerry Prado, who we're so lucky to be working with on this project. rolloff@sisterdistrict.com, and we'll get you the information that you need and all the rest. And with that, if there are questions in the chat, I'll try to see, but also want to be very mindful of time. But let's see if there are some questions. I'm just sort of scrolling through. I see, so there's a question, where would these ads air? Sky's the limit, right? So these are available for public, these are available to our allies to add into their own program, right? And as I said, if not these specific assets, although we've created them, why not? The principles behind them should apply to whatever program you might be running. Let's see. Yeah, so just other questions about how the toolkit can be used. Hopefully those have been answered, but if not, please reach out to us. We are so excited to get this work and the principles behind it out And so with that, I'll turn things back over to Lala.
Okay, everyone. I just want to give a last opportunity for folks to ask any questions. Feel free to drop them in the chat right now. Otherwise, we are keeping this at a nice and tight half-hour briefing because we know there is so much work to be done right now. Oops, and I just came back on video. Hi. Let's see. We've just got a few more questions. Will you be testing the voting behavior of people exposed to the messages? Yes, we are disseminating this through our partners, and so it'll be up to our partners whether or not they will be testing this. But to the extent that we are at Sister District are running some of this messaging ourselves, we are definitely going to be testing this for its effectiveness, and we'll follow back up. Let's see. Gabby, do you want to come back on and answer any questions that are coming in at the last minute?
Sure, happy to. Hopefully you can hear me. I don't know what happened. There's a quick glitch. Yes, Jess Craven asks about the state rights aspect to this. If you can, Jess, moments before this session, I cut that slide. But thank you for asking, and I'll just share really briefly. Earlier, I shared some of the key themes that came out of the research that we did. One of the other key themes that came out that I didn't share in the interest of time now, but we'll mention briefly, is that there were a number of really important differences between conservative voters and progressive voters when it comes to voting down ballot and attitudes there. And so one thing I would share is that there was a big difference in in voters from those ideological polls when it comes to this question of whether voting down ballot is a civic duty. So we asked folks, is it your civic duty to vote all the way down the ballot? And really interestingly, our voters said that they felt that it was their civic duty to only vote in races where they had a lot of information about the candidate and about the office. Whereas conservative voters answered the exact opposite. They said that it was their civic duty to vote no matter what. And that's really a theme when it comes to this ideological piece, is that no one knows what state legislators do very much, right? No, the information in general is rather low, but conservatives vote anyways, whereas our voters are held back by wanting more information or perfect information, or feeling lack of confidence, lack of agency, feeling like their votes don't matter. So really interesting ideological skew there, which goes then to a deeper piece. I think we asked voters, where do you think most power should be? And interestingly, and not surprisingly, conservative voters overwhelmingly said that they believed that states are where most power should be, whereas our voters said that the federal level was where most power should be held in government. So we get these really interesting differences in ideology, which flows through into the voting behavior that we see. Thank you so much for that question.
Gabby, maybe just one more question about whether we are encouraging candidates at the top of the ticket to encourage people to vote down ballot.
Absolutely. And who on this line is super excited that the Harris campaign just donated down ballot for maybe the first time ever to the DLCC and other sister committees, right? This is massive. This is huge. I mean, it's historic. And absolutely, I think it shows that the Harris ticket is aware of how important these down ballot races are. And everyone on this call should feel really good about that. And the work that you all have done over the past decade plus to make that a reality, to get these races and these offices on the radar of our national party and of the public in general. So yes, absolutely, we'll continue to do everything we can to make sure that this kind of material is layered into the highest levels of races this year, because these are tight margins, and every vote is really going to count.
Fantastic. Okay, well, thank you all so much. We wanted to keep this to a nice and tight half an hour, so that's what we are going to do. But Libby, yes, you can adapt this language. The idea is to provide broad messaging guidance as well as specific assets for folks to use. Again, thank you so much to our amazing attendees, our volunteers, our strategists, our electeds who are here. We are so grateful to have the opportunity to share this work with you all. We are tremendously excited about the opportunities for this to be a really historic year, but we know that it is not going to just happen to us. We have to play a role in it. We have to roll up our sleeves, do the work. And as Mike Podhorzer likes to say, it is going to come down to the margin of effort. So thank you all so much for being here. If you have any questions, please do reach out to rolloff@sisterdistrict.com, and we'll see you out there in the field. Take care.